Guys, I was like pretty far into making this, and I did the introduction, the beginning and stuff, and then I realized my microphone was over there the whole time, so you could barely hear me. Rough start. Welcome back to True Crime with Kylie, episode 5. I'm so excited. If y'all don't know, or y'all probably did because I blasted it everywhere, but I'm on Spotify now. I'm so excited. And so the first 4 episodes on Spotify are my YouTube channel videos, just the audio. So I extract the audio and put it on there. But episode 5, this episode, and from now on, I'm going to be doing 2 separate recordings. I'm going to do a YouTube recording and then a podcast recording. Because if I just take the audio from my videos, it doesn't have the same effect, I feel. And so videos will be dropping on Sunday, and then the podcast will be dropping on Monday. So, so excited. I keep budging that, and so I'm about to knock this whole table over. All right. Rant aside. Let's get started on episode 5. I had to think about it. You saw that? I had to think about it. It's a doozy. It is a doozy. Why do I keep using that word? 5 episodes later, and I still haven't done anything about my janky background. I might just leave it now because I feel like it's like a part of the video. I guess you can stay. I found this case on Crime Library, an article written by David Lohr, who's amazing. I've read so many of his articles. Keep doing you, David. Keep doing you. Anyways, this is a case about a mother from hell. Like hell. Like H-E double hockey sticks, Satan's crib, hell. With that being said, this is the case of Theresa Cross. Theresa Jimmy Francine Cross. I had to think about it. Keep hitting my microphone. I had to think about it because a lot of names. Was born on March 12th, 1946 to Jim and Swaney. She spells it like this. I think it's Swaney. I gotta stop picking cases with names I don't know how to pronounce. Anyways, she was born in Sacramento, California. She had 1 older sister named Rosemary and 2 older step-siblings from her mother's previous marriage named William and Clara. Y'all, her dad worked as an assistant cheesemaker. I want to do that. I want to make cheese and probably be able to eat it for a living. Jim, let me know. Oh, I think he might be dead now. Oh, no. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. R.I.P. Jim. You were a really good guy. Why are you the way that you are? Their mother worked at a local lumber company, and Jim started to, really make success in the cheese business. And so they decided to move their family to Rio Linda, California. Not long after the move, though, Jim was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. And as his disease became more apparent, the less he was able to work. And this caused him to go into a severe depression and take most of his anger out on his kids. According to friends and family, Theresa was a very jealous and kind of a loner. She was very jealous of her sister, and they often fought over boys, which that weirds me out personally, because I have never, ever fought over a boy with my sisters. I mean, I guess we have like different types, but it has never happened. Like, I wouldn't fight over my brother-in-laws. No offense, y'all are great. Y'all are great. I need to shut up. Not only did they fight over boys, they often fought over their mother's affection. On March 2nd, 1961, Theresa was escorting her mother to the local grocery store, where her mother suddenly collapsed. She took her last breaths in Theresa's arms, and she passed away from congestive heart failure. I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine. Like, my mother, if you know my mother, she's a saint of an angel sent from heaven above. And she's not allowed to, like, ever leave. Like, she has to stay here forever. Like, sorry, Mom, but you're gonna be here forever. After the death of her mother, Theresa also fell into a very deep depression without the income of Swaney and Jim really struggling with work. He ended up having to sell their house. With Theresa's life in disarray, losing her mother, losing the house, she latched on to the first man that walked into her life. So I want to say this before I get into her first husband, is that emphasis on first husband. There are going to be a lot of guys, like, no offense, girl, you do you. I mean, you know, live your life, Theresa, but there's a bunch, so just stay with me because it's a lot. It's a lot. Theresa met Cliff when she was 15 and he was 20. They met at a mutual friend's house, and not long after meeting, they were in love and had plans to get married. A lot of people questioned Theresa's intentions with this. They didn't know if she was actually in love or if she just wanted the security. Nevertheless, they got married on September 25th, 1962, and she dropped out of junior high in the States. Keep in mind, she's 15. And so I guess it was different back then, because for us, that'd be dropping out of high school. So she dropped out of high school at 15 and moved into a small apartment with Cliff in the North Highland District in Sacramento. Needless to say, this marriage went downhill, and it went downhill fast. Theresa kept Cliff on a very short leash, which, all my ladies out there, you already know this. If you keep your man on a short leash, he's going to figure out how to make that leash longer without you knowing. I mean, duh. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Theresa ended up giving birth to their first child, a little boy named Howard Clyde Sanders. After Howard was born, things got a little bit better for Theresa and Cliff, but soon Theresa reverted back to her old ways. Cliff made it very known that he was very unhappy in this marriage and that he would have had left earlier if she didn't get pregnant again in 1964 with their second child. With a growing family, they had to move out of their small apartment, their one-bedroom apartment, and they ended up buying a small little white house outside Sacramento. While Theresa and Cliff had their ups and downs, it all came to a boiling point on June 22nd, 1964. Theresa was very, very mad that Cliff was constantly out drinking and not staying at home with them, and she would berate them like, you know, you are neglecting our child, and you're also spending our well-needed money on all this booze. Cliff was not having it and gave her a 1-2 punch right to the face. Theresa went straight to the police, wrote out a report, and when it was time to, press charges and arrest Cliff, Theresa refused to sign the papers. And so nothing happened. So I'm like, you do that, you make a fuss, and then you're like, I'm just kidding. I don't want anything to happen. I'm fine. Like, he punched you in the face. At least, punch him back. After another heated argument on July 5th, 1964, Cliff was like, I'm done. Bye. Like, I'm Audi 5000. I'm over this. And so as he packed his bags and was going to leave, Theresa grabbed a rifle and shot him. He stumbled backwards and fell dead. When the cops got there, they found Cliff laying face down in the kitchen doorway, and the rifles leaning against the wall on the opposite side. Theresa told them that she shot him to make him stop hitting her, and this whole situation was it wasn't making sense. So at 18 years old, Theresa was arrested and her son was given to relatives to take care of. On August 4th, 1964, Theresa entered a plea of innocence in the reason of self-defense. Her trial was set to begin 3 weeks later in Judge Charles W. Johnson's courtroom. Courtroom. But, okay, moving on from that courtroom nonsense. I want y'all to remember the name. Judge Charles W. Johnson, okay? This poor judge, my goodness, he's about to see a lot of Theresa. You'll see. Her trial began on September 21st, 1964. The defense said that, it was a self-defense, case closed. Like, he was hitting her and so she shot him. The prosecutor noted that if he was coming at her, why was he shot in the back? And so they try to use that a lot in this case. And that, she shot him because she thought he was like, committing adultery against her, and that she used the self-defense plea in order to seem like a helpless woman that didn't want to go to prison. The jury only took an hour and 45 minutes to deliberate, and they found her not guilty. After getting acquitted, she gained custody of her young son back from her relatives, and she was 4 months pregnant. At just 18, Theresa, found herself really depressed and really alone. She would drown her sorrows at the American Legion Hall, which, she's pregnant. Don't do that, Theresa. But, can't do anything about it now. But this is where she met Estelle Lee Thornsberry. And I know, not Thornsberry, not Throneberry, like, what's her face? Treva. I can't even say it now. Estelle Lee Thornsberry was an Army veteran who suffered a debilitating blow when he was left quadriplegic after a swimming accident. This did not bother Theresa at all, and the two began dating. On March 3rd, 1965, Theresa gave birth to her second child, a little girl named Sheila Gray Sanders. Even though, it wasn't Estelle's child, he still treated her, like his own daughter. But soon into the relationship, Estelle did not like what he was seeing. He was being treated more like a babysitter rather than a love interest. And after a few months, he found out. Is your popcorn ready? Get ready for this. The drama, the tea, it is piping hot. She was cheating on him with his best friend. Girl, no. Anyways, after a heated argument, Theresa packed up her stuff and her kids and Estelle's stuff. Like, she was just like, oh, I'm gonna take it anyways. Like, she packed up all that stuff and moved out. Shortly after leaving Estelle, didn't take her long to find a new man. she set her sights on Robert Knorr. He was a private in the Marine Corps. Just a few months after dating, she got pregnant. And so then they decide they decided to discuss marriage. Don't know what that was. Can y'all see that? This literally just happened. I had like a rough spot on my hand, so I started scratching at it, and it like opened up, and now it really freaking hurts. There's a lot of Neosporin on it, so that's why it's all like damp right there. But I'll survive another day. On February 1966, Robert was actually shipped off to Vietnam, and while on patrol, he was struck by a stray bullet in the shoulder. Y'all, I thought I had bad luck. This guy has quite possibly the worst luck of anybody. So, on a whole different day, he was struck again by another stray bullet, but in the side. And then, he was walking across the bridge one day when it exploded. And the shrapnel, like, ripped through his arms and legs. Didn't kill him still. And so he ended up spending a few months in the Oakland Naval Hospital. But, like, get struck by a bullet once, like, oh, dang, that's some bad luck. Get struck by a bullet twice, like, be on a bridge when it exploded? Dude, he needs to, like, I don't know, just stay under a rock. Wait, maybe the rock might crush him. I don't know. This guy's terrible luck. July 9th, 1966, Theresa was about 7 months pregnant. Robert was able to come home, and so they drove over to Nevada and got married in front of a local judge. I'm going to have to, like, read these names and birth dates out, because they all happen very fast. I thought my mom, popped out kids real fast. No, Theresa was like, I'll do you one better, and I'll do it faster. So, September 27th, 1966, Susan Marlene Knorr was born, and she was Theresa's third child. She spelled it Suesan. So, Susan. I don't know. September 15th, 1967, William Robert Knorr was born. This was Robert's second child, but his first son, and her fourth child. December 31st, 1968, Robert Wallace Knorr was born. This was Robert's second son, third child, and Theresa's fifth child. That's a lot. That's like I think she was pregnant for like 5 years. I'm not even gonna imagine that. Robert continued to serve in the military, but with his diminishing abilities, because, being shot twice and being in an explosion where all the stuff, rips through your whole body, you're not going to be able to do as much as you could. And so he took a job as a burial escort. This job made him, have to leave his family at a moment's notice and also be gone for long periods of time because he was, traveling cross country. Theresa did not like this one bit. She often voiced her opposition and also accused him of infidelity. With this, she turned her anger towards her kids, and this is where the mother from absolute hell begins. I'm trying to see if you can hear my dad. My nephews are over, and so anytime it's time to take a bath, he yells, "Bubbles! Bubbles!" So I could literally just hear him yelling it, so I was trying to see. I don't think you can hear him. Theresa began to inflict very serious abuse against her children. She would make them sit on the floor for hours at a time. And if they moved a little bit or even moved their eyes, she would go into a tirade and just absolutely just beat them up. And she also, if they didn't do something she liked, she would lock them in a closet, and she would also force feed them till like they absolutely collapsed. It's so sad. In June 1969, Theresa and Robert were like, all right, this isn't working. So Robert left. They did reconcile, but not long after, Theresa ended up filing for divorce. Guess who was the judge? It was Charles W. Johnson again. The same judge for her murder trial. I feel like this is how it went. Bring in the next Theresa Cross wanting a divorce. Didn't you kill your husband last time you were in my courtroom, Mrs. Cross? They were granted a divorce on June 3rd, 1970. 2 months later, Theresa gave birth to her... Honestly, I don't know what number this child is, but she gave birth to a little girl named Theresa Marie Knorr. Yeah, she named her child after herself, but her child, they called her Terry, so I guess so they know the difference. And Robert said that he would try to go visit his children, talk to his children, but like Theresa absolutely refused, was like, nope, I don't want anything to do with you. And so after, numerous tries, he eventually gave up and got remarried. Theresa met Ronald in 1971. He was a railroad worker, and they got married shortly after meeting and purchased a home in East Sacramento. Fortunately, history would repeat itself again. Theresa treated Ronald like a possession rather than a partner, and she would leave him with the kids, and she would go out and party, and sometimes she would party all night. She wouldn't even come home. Robert did feel like she was cheating on him, and so not long after they got married, they were granted a divorce on September 27th, 1972. And guess who was the judge? This poor guy's probably like, bring in the next. Am I reading that right? Is this Theresa Cross again? Want another divorce? Okay. I'm not here to judge. All right. Theresa Cross wanting another divorce granted. Theresa met Chet Harris at the American Legion Hall. He was 59 years old, so good 30 years older than her, and he was a copywriter for the Sacramento Union newspaper. They got married on August 27th, 1972. Just 3 days after meeting. 3. Like, do you even know someone's middle name? What? 3 days? And of course, when you meet and marry someone after 3 days of knowing them, you're going to learn things you didn't know. And Chet had a very interesting hobby. He would take nude photos of women. He asked Theresa to pose for him, and she refused. As the time went on, Theresa began hating her new husband, and especially because he began to develop a close relationship to her daughter Susan. And it wasn't like a sexual relationship. It was literally just like a father figure relationship. They bonded over jigsaw puzzles and mythology, and Theresa hated that because she felt that the tension was getting taken away from her by Susan. 2 months after meeting and marrying, they got divorced on December 17th, 1976. The judge, once again, was our boy Chuck. Charles W. Johnson, good old dude. This apparently was his last court appearance as well. He retired 2 months later. She's back again? You don't even need to say her name. We're like, but she's on my top 8 now on MySpace. I've worked with her so much. Yes, divorce granted. I'm out. I'm done. Bye. I'm over it. After Theresa's divorce from Chet, this is where her kids noticed a very drastic change in her personality. She stopped going out. She stopped going out altogether with friends. And she took away all the phones in the house because she didn't want anyone calling. Her son, Robert, said that he absolutely hated watching the Brady Bunch because he felt that being that kind of happy family wasn't real. Like, he literally did not think you could be in a family and be happy. And he said, we grew up in an insane asylum, but the worst thing is we didn't know we were growing up in an insane asylum. Unfortunately, the more Theresa drank, the more abusive she became. She would throw steak knives at them. She held a .22 caliber pistol against Terry's head, and she would force her kids to hold one another down and help her beat them. So they literally had to hold their sibling down. And they did what she said because that's their mom, and they don't know anything else. This is where it starts to get really, really, really bad. Theresa was convinced that Chet had turned Susan into a witch. I literally have no idea where she got that from, but Susan tried to kind of use this as a tactic to like intimidate her mom and hopefully get like less beatings because her mom was afraid of her. Fortunately, the opposite happened. She got the worst abuse out of all the siblings, and at one point she ran away, and a truancy officer picked her up and they brought her into a psych ward. At the psych ward, she told the doctors and the police officers what was happening in their house. And when Theresa came to pick her up, they interviewed Theresa, and Theresa was like, "What? No, that has never happened in my house, not under my Christian roof." And guess who they believed? They believed Theresa, and they sent Susan back with her. And to make sure Susan never ran away again, she handcuffed her to her bed. While Susan was handcuffed to her bed, Theresa made her children take turns beating her and also make sure to take turns watching her at night so she wouldn't run away. It's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. In 1982, Theresa was convinced that Susan was casting spells against her to make her fat. No, Theresa, that's just all the alcohol you're drinking. Like, was she like, bibbity bobbity boo, biatch, now you're fat? What? No. So, when Susan ended up figuring out, like, okay, me saying a witch is not going to help me, she started denying it. Like, I'm not a witch, Mom. Like, I'm not. But when she would deny these claims, Theresa would go into a rage. And at one point, she grabbed that .22 caliber pistol and shot Theresa in the chest. After she saw what she had done, she ordered her 2 sons to put Theresa in the bathtub, and she absolutely refused to call the police and refused to call an ambulance because she didn't want them to know what she just did. So all she did was place her in the bathtub and just band her up. With that, it was not life-threatening injuries, and Susan was able to like kind of come back from it a little bit. But after another heated argument between the two, Theresa grabbed a pair of scissors and stabbed Susan in the back with them. Again, Susan, being like the rock star she is, didn't die from this. And so eventually she asked Theresa, like, please let me move out, like, please. And Theresa agreed on one condition. If Susan was going to move out, they had to take the bullet out of her, because Theresa did not want Susan going to the police and them being able to extract the bullet and have it as DNA evidence against her. So, Susan, as wanting to get out of that house, she reluctantly agreed to this. On the day of Susan's surgery, Theresa gave her a handful of malarial capsules and a quarter of hard liquor. This soon knocked Susan out, and Theresa ordered Robert to cut open Susan's back and dig in there for the bullet. He did eventually find it and take it out. The next day, obviously, Susan woke up in like terrible pain. Theresa gave her antibiotics and ibuprofen, but of course that didn't help. And soon Susan's eyes turned yellow. Black marks began to appear on her back, which was signs of internal bleeding, and she was no longer able to control her bowels. On July 16th, 1984, Theresa decided that since Susan was clinging to life, she's going to do something about it. So she packed all of Susan's stuff in garbage bags and then bound her arms and legs behind her with duct tape and put duct tape over her mouth. She then ordered her sons to put Susan in the car, and they drove down the highway and pulled off. The sons brought Susan out of the car and placed her on the ground along with her bag of stuff that Theresa had. Theresa doused the bags and Susan with gasoline and lit them on fire. They didn't stay to make sure she was dead. She did die, but they just, after they set her on fire, they turned around and drove back home and acted like nothing happened. And when authorities did find Susan's body, it was very apparent that she was still alive while being burned to death. In spring 1985, Theresa's small state-assisted income was not really paying the bills. And so instead of, getting a job like a normal person would, she made her daughter, Sheila, go out and prostitute. And Sheila was horrified by this, but she knew if she said no, she would get a terrible beating and might end up like Susan. So Sheila reluctantly went and prostituted, and she was given less beatings because she did this, and she was bringing in so much money to Theresa. In May 1985, Theresa suspected that Sheila was pregnant and that she had a venereal disease, and that she contracted that venereal disease from Sheila because she used the same toilet as her. Like, are you stupid, Theresa? That's not how you get a venereal disease. You're probably just gross. And Sheila refused to say that she was pregnant. She refused to say that she had a venereal disease because she didn't. But since she wasn't, accepting these claims, Theresa beat her black and blue, then hogtied her and shoved her into a very, very, very tiny closet. Theresa gave very strict orders to her children that they were not to open that door no matter how hot it got, because this was May. It's hot. And they couldn't give her food. They couldn't give her water. They couldn't do anything for her. And if they did, they'd get severely beaten. So they obeyed, and they left her in there for days and days and days. One day they heard a loud thud in the closet. They thought maybe something like fell, so they didn't really pay much attention to it. A couple days after hearing that thud, there was a smell coming from the closet. A very, very gross smell that they could not, figure out what it was. So finally, they opened the closet, and there was Sheila's decomposing body in fetal position. Theresa ended up getting a cardboard box and putting blankets and pillows in there and putting Sheila's body in there. Once again, they drove down the highway, pulled off at a random spot, and dumped the box there. And she ordered them to dump it in a pile of weeds, so would it be traceable? They picked a terrible spot because only a few hours later, after dropping the box off, a man by the name of Elmer Barber, who worked for the campground there, discovered it. Like, imagine I'm Elmer walking around, like enjoying my day, and I come across a box, and I'm like, oh, a box, and seeing a freaking dead body in there. I will never be the same. Fast forward 8 years later to 1993. Terry was watching America's Most Wanted, and although none of them had to do with what her case or what she went through, she was watching the people, speak on their experiences. And so she decided to muster up the courage and finally go tell the police everything. On November 4th, 1993, police filed a felony complaint against Theresa and her two sons. William was apprehended in Sacramento, Robert was apprehended in Nevada, and Theresa was apprehended in Salt Lake City. And the police couldn't have come a moment sooner because she had found out about her two sons' arrest. And so when they got to her house and arrested her, they saw that she was packing her bags to flee. Like, they came in nick of time. Because imagine if that monster went running and we could never find her. I'd go find her. I'd be like, all right, I wasn't even born yet, but whatever. November 15th, 1993, Theresa was charged on the torture slayings of her two daughters. At first, she pleaded innocent, but changed it on October 17th, 1995, when she found out that her son William was going to testify against her in exchange for a lesser sentencing. So she was quick to say, nope, just kidding, I'm guilty. And she also did this because she kind of had a feeling that she'd be found guilty by a jury, and she didn't want to get the death penalty. Theresa was sentenced to 2 life sentences. The judge said her crimes were callous beyond belief, and she will be eligible for parole in 2027. If she does make it to there, and she does get out, she will be 80 years old. Fingers crossed she doesn't make it out or even make it to 2027. Robert was sentenced to 3 years in a state prison in conjunction with another crime he was serving, and then William was placed on probation and sentenced to undergo mandatory therapy. And that was the case of the Mother from Hell, aka Theresa Cross. Whew. Told you. HE double hockey sticks, hell is where she is going. Thank you so much for tuning in again with True Crime with Kylie. Like I said earlier, my YouTube videos will drop on Sunday and my podcast will drop on Monday. It will be the same content, just kind of formatted differently. I'm so excited. Episode 6 will not be released this week, but next week, because I'm going out to town, so I won't have my stuff with me. So nothing this next coming week, but the week after that. So make sure to stay tuned with True Crime with Kylie.